Good morning, everybody. Natalie coming to live. Spirit and coffee. Got my coffee here. So lovely. Hmm? Okay, so let's get started. Um, Crazy. And I want to talk about being in transition because I think that everybody in their life at this point is in transition. Um, the year has been crazy. And please, as you get on here, share. Um, but it's been I don't even know, a crazy couple of years. Or we're going on 1 year, right? I guess March is when all of this happened. Um, but beyond that, if we can think about all of the things, good morning, Larry, that have happened during this year, it's been crazy. And I don't know that anybody didn't feel the impacts of what has been happening. So it's just transition, right? And that's what I want to talk about is transition. How do we transition from one thing to the next? And it's hard because part of transition, part of that is change. And change is something that's not super easy for people to go through. Some people don't like change. Some people like the norm. Some people like things being the same way all the time, over and over again. Um, and then if something changes, they don't know how to handle it. And that's kind of been our life for the past year. Things have changed drastically. And there was resistance. I had a resistance to change. I had resistance to some of the things that are going on in the world right now. But the reality is it's here, regardless if we like it, don't like it, want it, don't want it, it's actually happening. And we're in transition to figure out how do we engage in all of the things that are happening. It's crazy, right? It's a what, like, for instance, what's going on in your life? What transitions are going on in your life? And some of them are positive, right? Some of them are really great transitions. Some people have gone through really hard transitions and really trying to figure out what they want in life. I mean, some people were displaced from a job, from a home. Some people lost, more than half their income. Some people had to leave where they were, change whole careers. The transition of having children, if you have children, staying at home with you. Good morning, Melissa. Staying at home with you during this transition or this period, right? People having to learn how to become teachers, the parents having to learn, have Wi-Fi, have computers. I mean, everybody pretty much does, but what about those families that don't? You know, having to work from home in your environment where you are. I mean, I'll be honest, like it's not, sometimes it's nice to work from home, but sometimes it's not easy, right? If you're on a meeting call and then, your family members are trying to get your attention and you're in the middle of a meeting and, our kids or whatever it is. Been an interesting time and everybody's in transition and it's change, it's great change, not just little change. This is not tiny. This is something, it has magnitude, it's epic. Basically going to go down in the history books, right? Good morning to those on Facebook. Please tell me good morning. I don't know who's on here. It's not showing me. And sometimes it doesn't even show your comments, which is not cool. I know my bestie was on here the other day. He's like, you didn't say hi. And I'm like, yeah, but I couldn't see you. I don't know why it doesn't do that. um, so in this great transition between one journey to the next, how do we deal with it, right? And how do we deal with change in such a huge, vast change and at an alarming rate, to be quite honest with you? I don't know that most of us were ready for that. Good morning, Poetic. How are you? Yay, Poetic's on here. Gotta love Poetic. Yes, and Poetic does the whole E shift, holy shift, which is like she does some tarot cards, she'll pull cards and stuff like that. So I like the stuff she writes. Really good stuff, Poetic, by the way. If we can get her to come speak, that would be great. Um, so the transition phase between one and the other, and that's part of, again, the spiritual alchemy, right? Good morning, Chels. Oh, it's Chels. How are you? That's part of the spiritual alchemy. And alchemy is the ability to transition between hard places. And the hard places are those big transformations that happen in our life where we go, holy sheesh, I wasn't ready for all this transition. I don't even know how to do this. And part of it too, there's this alarming overwhelm that starts to happen, right? For me, I can tell you what's going on for me, and I don't know if it's relatable to what you guys might be experiencing. Please chime in. I'm in a transition to a new environment, to live in a new space. But the hard part about this whole entire, shift into the new space is that I had to transition from one space to another space to another space. So I feel like I'm moving twice instead of once, which is not, it's not an easy thing to do, right? I feel displaced. I feel uprooted. I don't feel like I have a home, right? And those are the things that I feel. I feel like I'm not grounded. I feel like everything is just scattered everywhere, and it's giving me sort of this anxiety, right? Like, right, like I just need to be in a spot where I have my things and I could be grounded. Okay. And I think I've told you guys before, for me, the prayer is always like, God, give me refuge, right? Give me refuge. Oh, I didn't even see all these comments. Good morning. I'm good, and you? Thank you. I've done that. It is frustrating. We moved the week of Christmas. Yeah, I'm really just now sleeping in all night. Oh, that's great. I'm glad that you're able to get rest, Poetic. It's hard to be in transition. You guys, if we went back on my Spirit and Coffee, which I've been doing now for a little over 3 years, if you went back, you would see that I've moved about a trillion times. It's ridiculous how many times I've moved. I'm like, oh my God, I'm all over the place. Like I move here, there. I'm kind of like have that in my blood though. For me, I don't mind moving. It's just right now, this move has been the hardest move for me ever in my life. Um, and I think part of it is because the place that I lived, I felt like I was home, right? I felt like it was a home, and that felt like it got ripped away. So it's almost like ripping the umbilical cord, cutting the umbilical cord, totally ripping apart the very fabric of who I thought I was, and being displaced, not feeling like I have a home. Um, oh, and see, it's even gonna make me cry. So that tells you that I'm onto something. To feel like something is home and grounded. And I think that was maybe the only place that I felt that way. And now I don't feel that way, if that makes sense. It everything has totally shifted. So looking right at what does it mean? Home is where the heart is. I can definitely yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, poetic. um, the home is where the heart is, and definitely you find a home. But for to be grounded for me, because I need stability in order to create the things that I create, I need a workshop. I call it a workshop, right? And it's not really a home. I call it a workshop. And the reason why there's a distinction between calling it a home and a workshop. And the reason why I call it a workshop is because I need a place to do God's work. Now, I'm not saying that I can't do God's work even if I am on the road or from place to place to place, right? But for me, my craft that I give back to humanity requires a spot that I can get roots or have roots. So something that I recognize. So for me, having a place, right? There's these individuals who go out, and I think it's the Mormons. I could be correct in saying that, but no, Jehovah Witnesses, right? They go on pilgrimages, and they go from house to house, and that's their way of giving back. And they stay in certain places maybe, and they're sort of free flowing, and they go from place to place to give God's word, or to whatever it is, right? The religious stuff. For me, in spiritual alchemy, the way that I give back spiritually is through the podcast, right? That's how I give back. That's how I send out a message. So I need a place that I can be grounded, a place that I can make coffee. It's, and sit down and be with people. So for me, a place, right? And I call it a workshop. Doesn't have to be, some big lavish thing. I just need a space that I can feel like I'm at home, so that I can ground myself, so that I can do the work that I need to do. So the transition between the two has been sort of difficult. And this is why I'm talking about transition, because I had to go from one place, right, to another place to now this place. And so I'm kind of hopping around like a bunny. So if you're in transition, you've got to ask yourself okay, what am I uncomfortable? What am I not letting go of? How am I allowing myself to transition from one phase to the next? Right? What am I doing for myself to help me? Right? So, in other words, like for instance, with poetic, you were moving and you were displaced, and it was hard, right? It was hard to transition between the two. Now, as spiritual alchemy, we don't say deny the hard transition. We say experience it. What are you learning from it? People want to skip the uncomfortable and get to the comfortable, and it's hard. It's hard to just allow yourself to dive into that uncomfortable space. It's not easy, because who wants to be uncomfortable, right? There's no growth potential when we're not uncomfortable. Who wants to have growing pains? Nobody. I mean, I don't know somebody who's like, hey, yes, I want to, feel the pain of this. I don't think people are signing up for that. Some might. I'm not saying that it's not possible, because there's some people who love pain. It's true. But most people will be like, I want to skip to the good stuff. Can we just get past this hard part? And even myself, right? That shows up for me. It's like, can I just get to a place where I'm organized and I have everything going and I'm fluid and I feel good and things are synergizing? So I've been totally uprooted, and not just in a small way. So we're looking at the transitions, because transitions in life sometimes are small and they're pretty easy, right? But then there's these huge ones. And these big, huge transitions, they are some of our greatest learning lessons, but they're the most uncomfortable and the hardest to do. So this is like, really, so think about it as you're a plant, okay? If you're a plant and you're living in a pot, okay, and you start to outgrow the pot, right? And you have to uproot. So usually with plants, you take it out of that and you put it into a new environment. Sometimes it takes like, it looks like it's going to die in that new environment. Sometimes the plant wilts. Sometimes the plant, it does all these weird things because it has to get used to the soil, its new environment. And then when it starts to get used to the new environment, it starts to get strong again and grow. And then it gets bigger, because now it has a bigger environment to grow. But it's uncomfortable at first. It's the plant's not comfortable. It has to reroot. It has to reground itself, right? But it's been uprooted. Oh, let's see, Melissa. Thank you for sharing, Melissa. Let me read what she said. I read something cool this morning. I want you to know that the string people have been through. I want you to know what the string people have been through. Mountains are made of by earthquakes. I read that same thing. Oh, that's awesome. You guys are like, you guys are on the same thing. I want you to know that the string people have been, I can't read this morning apparently. I want you to know what the string people have been through. Mountains are made by earthquakes. And I love that. Thank you. And that's a beautiful way, a beautiful parable, maybe, an analogy. Strong people, strong, maybe. I can't type. It's okay. Yes, made by earthquakes. And we have to go through those transitions, right? So in order to grow, we have to go to the uncomfortable, like you said, the earthquakes, right? If we looked at the plates and the way the earth crust and everything moves, that mountains themselves have to be pushed and pressed, right? It's the two plates converging together that have come up, and then this mountain just starts to form based on the plates and the shaking of the earth, and the crust starts to come up and form, and it becomes this magnificent thing. And it's funny that you were talking about mountains, because I live in New Mexico, and we have, good morning, Jeff. We have, if you're on here on Facebook, please say good morning, because then I can't see people. But the mountains, we have the Sandia Mountains, and they're beautiful. And we went hiking the other day in the base of the mountain, And I mean, when you look at it, you just think how tiny and insignificant, right? So when it's kind of funny because it kind of plays into it. It's like the earthquakes, right, created the mountains. There was pressure plates. There was all this transition and chaos that was happening in order for that to happen. And it's almost like you inherently feel it when you're with the mountain. You can feel it. You can feel that it didn't grow that big just by, right? There was something magnificent that happened. Something huge happened in order for that mountain to be as magnificent as it was. And it had to go through a lot of pressure and chaos and pushing and rising. So the transition between the two has been it was very, 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 very hard, right? And that's true. So Tanya, good morning, Tanya. So last night, of course, I told you I was going to talk about you. And look, here I am doing my spirit and coffee. And you wouldn't even know maybe that I was at my homie's house. I'm not gonna say whose house I'm at. Can't give away the secrets of where I'm staying. I'm incognito. I'm just kidding. Um, that they were laughing last night. And Tanya, pick me, pick me. And I pick you. I choose you. I was excited, and that's another thing. So in transition, and what I want to say, Tanya, now that you're on here, is I was thinking about transition this morning. I was actually thinking about you and Katrina last night, and just thinking about how what I was thinking is like, it's amazing how your space and environment change the mindset of who we are, right? So this morning I'm thinking, God, like I'm transitioning from one space to another. And the space that I was at previously with a good friend of mine, um, she's a different energy. Her energy's different, right? And I'm thinking, wow, I come here and the energy's different, right? There's a lot of joy and laughter and craziness and chaos and silly fun happening. And I'm like, wow, it was medicine, right? So I'll say like last night was medicine for me, to be able to laugh at things, like yama or lama or whatever. And, have that connection of laughter. I mean, it was good for my soul, right? So recognizing that in transition. So thank you, Tanya, for that, because I had a really good time and super excited about riding up a mountain. That, I mean, I'm really literally can't wait to do that. And go on bike rides, long bike rides in the in the sun, New Mexican sun. But thinking about it and thinking, wow, like your environment can change the way that you thrive, or what happens to you. And so a totally different environment, totally different mindset. The individuals have different ways of living, pretty interesting. Yay, we are doing this. Yes, I'm doing it. And I'm gonna do spirit and coffee on my bike. Well, it's the mountain. Everybody could see me dying. But I'm excited to do it because I didn't even know it existed. And that's me, because I'm kind of like I'm a weird introverted extrovert. It's weird. I typically stay in a lot unless people invite me to go out. And if they don't invite me to go out, I stay in. I mean, it's just the way it works. I don't go out seeking stuff. It's just weird. I'm a weird person. Okay. I'm very unique. My friend told me not to call myself weird, to say that I was unique. So I'm unique, although I think I'm weird. It's okay. But yes, the space and the environment to thrive, and have a good time. That's part of the transition, right? It's transitioning from one space to the next. What's your new environment? What is it that you're transitioning into? What is uncomfortable? What is comfortable? How do you find your roots and your home? How do you replant yourself? So if you're being uprooted like a plant and replanted somewhere, how do you make sense of the new environment that you're in? How do you feel around and say, oh, okay, this, that, and you start to get good, and we're very adaptable. Humans are so adaptable, it's almost crazy ridiculous. You know, when I was living in India, honestly, at first I was like, I don't know if I can do this for, 6 months. And then before you knew it, I was like, I don't want to leave this place. I didn't want to leave because I started to adapt to the environment and I started to see it through a new lens. So we're very adaptable to new environments, very adaptable. And so if you're going through a transition, you have the ability to really adapt to the environment. So that's something that you can ask yourself. Are there things that feel familiar around me? What's familiar, right? Well, thinking about like even last night, right? Talking about old stuff and the past and people that we've known from the past. Well, that's familiar, right? Those are things that I can identify with. And then the laughter, right? Those are things that are inherently in us, right? To be able to laugh and let things go. I have to go to work. Okay, have a good day. Cheers to you. Salud. Go to work. Get to work. Gabe's gonna get upset. Just kidding. Yeah, these individuals, and so adapting to our new environment, uprooting, rerouting, and then looking at these things in nature, which are amazing, like the mountains, like you said. I think it's a perfect analogy. You know, even volcanoes or whatever it is, things have to erupt, things have to be under pressure. Diamonds aren't made without pressure. Extreme heat and extreme pressure, right? That's why people are like, oh, I want to be a diamond. You want to be a diamond, but you're not willing to go through the pressure and you're not willing to, you can't be a diamond unless you go through that, because that's what a diamond goes through. A precious gem has to go through all of that fire and pressure and heat and chaos before it can come out shiny and polished. It takes a lot of work, commitment, and part of that is transition. So really the transition phase is probably, it's the most uncomfortable, but it's the most important for our growth potential. So asking yourself, where am I in my life where I'm transitioning? What am I allowing myself to transition into? How do I support myself through that transition so that I'm able to come out like a diamond? Right? Or am I just trying to avoid it? But I still want the results of a diamond. You can't avoid it. I'm sorry. I wish that I had better news for you guys. I like it. It's like the Oracle and the Matrix. Every time I see you, it seems like I always have bad news. But what she was really saying is that there's pressure and life is not easy, and that there's going to be pressure when we're called for something bigger in our life. That just means that you're actually elevating. People talk about, oh, I'm illuminated, I'm elevated. I'm like, really? I want to know all the chaos and the pressure you've gone through to become elevated, because that's what it takes to elevate. If you're comfortable and you're just hanging out, you're not growing. I know it's funny because even in my Kung Fu, they talked about it, right? The being uncomfortable. That's something that we live by as leaders. If you're in a leadership role or taking any kind of leadership training, or if you follow any motivational speakers, none of them sit there and tell you that it's easy. Everybody has a story. All those people who have, rose to the top or at the top of their game right now, went through extreme pressure, pain. They didn't just get there. We don't see the back end of things that are happening, right? We only see the success, but the pressure, the things that they had to go through to get there, they had to put in the work. You got to put in the work. And it's scary for most people. But you can't, it's funny. My friend was even talking about that the other day. He's like, people want the results without the work. You got to put in the work. You've got to put in the work. Like, for instance, with me and my Kung Fu, to talk about, I can't just assume that I should be a black belt. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, it takes practice. It takes patience. It takes time. It takes time and effort. Of course, it's what it is, right? The time and effort, the skill, the ability, it takes time. You don't just all of a sudden, good morning, Mel, all of a sudden just become a black belt or think that. And then when you get there, and here's another thing, And people tend to do this, and it's just the human ego. There's nothing right, wrong, good, or bad about it, but just asking yourself and being aware when you get there. Let's say, for instance, I'm like, okay, I'm finally black belt, right? For first degree. Trust me, in Kung Fu, you're never going to make it to the top. It's just not possible. There's too much. But when when you get to, let's say, the black belt, that doesn't mean that the small stuff doesn't matter, that the things that I learned prior, that I'm the master at them yet. No, I got to still practice that. We have to practice the basics all the time. Think about it. You've got to go back to compassion and love. That's basic. Those are like forgiveness, compassion, love, gratitude. Those sound like very basic, essential things that we should be doing, right, as humans, right? I mean, I think most people would agree. Some people might not, the ones who are totally in the shadow. But if we talked about, most human beings want love, compassion, kindness, trust, those basic, essential things in life. When you think about them, right? They sound simple, but boy, do we have to remind ourselves to come back to them. It's easy just to think, oh, we know it all. Right there, that's not having gratitude. That's not even having forgiveness. It's judgment, right? I know it all. They don't know anything. I have all the answers. They have nothing. That's ego talking. Then we have to bring ourselves back to the basics and say, oh, what do I even know? I don't even, I need to go back to the basic beginning, which is love and kindness and compassion. Oops, I did it again. There I am making judgments on people. Let me go back to the beginning. Let me start all over again. See, that's what we do. We're human. We're constantly in that ebb and flow of falling asleep to wake ourselves up. So the basics are important. So when you get there, let's say for instance, you're like, yeah, I get there. I feel like I went through this big transformation and I'm finally there. And now everybody else is a peon. What? No. Go back to the beginning. Now you're a beginner all over again. So you just forgot that everybody's the same and we love everybody the same. You have to go all the way back to the beginning. It's just like Kung Fu. You go back to the beginning and then you're like, whoa, how did I miss that particular move in that basic form that we learned, which is not so basic, which I thought was so basic, but it's not. It's complex. First love, yes. But people do that, we're all do it. We're all human. We're like, oh, us, we're the ones who are awake and they're not awake. They're asleep. We don't know. What is their sleep? What is their awake? How do we know that? We can't just assume we understand. What we could do is say, I pray, I pray that these individuals see, that they open up their eyes, just like I pray for myself that I can see and open up my eyes and see and understand and have awareness. It's a different conversation. So again, through transitions, we go through these phases. And then when we get to a place where we feel grounded, that doesn't mean it's going to last forever. I can tell you something about myself. I am a creator. I know how to manifest. And even though I jump from place to place to place to place to place, every time I jump from one place to the next, I learn something new. I grow a little bit more. I get a little bit closer to my authentic self. I'm learning about changing environments. I'm learning about transition, what it truly means. I mean, good morning, Kristen, this particular transition is probably the most significant transition of my life. It's a rite of passage in a way that I didn't even understand. It's the ability to totally disconnect, cut the umbilical cord, right? And totally stand in my own right. Good morning, Jordan. Which is huge. It's huge. It's the ability to rise as the divine feminine in feminine grace and hold my power. It's again holding my staff, right? And for women it would be holding their staff, for men holding their staff, right? And standing firm in your divine will, grounding yourself in your spiritual principle. That's the transition I'm in, to be able to root into my divine feminine grace and completely embody, right, that, and hold up my staff and be firm and say, this is who I am, and not compromise. And what I mean by not compromise, I mean not waver in spiritual principle, but stand in integrity and not compromise for anyone. That's not an easy thing to do, because you're going to get people that don't want to be around you, or you're going to get people that are angry with you. And you have to stand firm. And it's hard because these are people you might love, people that you're closest to. They may just say, you know what, I can't. You may say, I can't do this because it is not aligning with my beliefs, my system. And I can't because it's not healthy for me. Not because I don't love you, but because it's not healthy for me. And that's the transition phase. You're going to let go of things and new things are going to come in. That's what happens. So don't be afraid to let go. If you're in transition right now, it's okay to let go. Good morning, PPG. Let go, because when you let go, you let love and you let new things arise. And that whole process, right, just continues over and over and over again, never ending. And me, I'll start from ground up. I'm not afraid to go from ground up. That's true faith. I'm literally, like, I've had everything ripped from me, and to me, it doesn't mean anything. I don't care. Like, at this point, I feel like getting rid of everything I have. Good morning, Scott. Right? I just feel like letting everything go and let it all go away. I'm doing well. How are you, PBG? Because the materialism is not what's important. What's important is the experience that I'm having in this world. Am I learning from it? To start from base, most people are afraid to let things go. Just let it go. I just want to let all the shit go. I'm sorry, excuse my language. Let it all go. Donate it all and start again. Start brand new. Start from the base. Start from the foundation. I know the foundational stuff. That's why I'm not afraid to let go. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm teaching. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm teaching here. To not be afraid to let go of shit. Let it go. Let it go. When you let it go, new things show up in your life. You're always going to be taking care of it. And it's a new journey, a new experience. It's scary for some, but you're always going to be taken care of. You're always going to have clothes on your back, food in your mouth. As long as you're doing good things and your heart's good and your intentions are good, things will always show up for you. It's the way it works. So I'm not afraid to let go. I'm like, oh, I swear I'm going to get rid of all my clothes and start again. I can't handle it. I have too much stuff. I'll donate it to people who need it. Right? Florida. Ooh, you in Florida? I'll be in Florida. I will be in Florida for 4th of July. I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to go to the Keys. Yay. Spirit and Coffee in the Keys. I'll be in the Keys, Florida, travel. That's something I always do. You guys know that about me. I'm a traveler. In which city do I live? I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Burque is what we call it. Burque. Most people say Burque, but it's not Burque. It's Burque. That's the New Mexican way. Orlando. I live in Hawaii. Ooh, nice. Hawaii. Mahalo. That's what I know. There's mahalo everywhere. Mahalo. Aloha. We thought mahalo meant trash because it's thank you. And when I first went over there, that's what I thought mahalo meant. I thought it meant trash. You're welcome, or thank you. I was like, oops. Oh, I know Jingle Bells in Hawaiian. Do you know about the Boulevard Road in Orlando? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I should go there, huh? Let's see here. Yeah, I know. I know it. It's funny that I know that. Jingle bells in Hawaiian. Kani kani pele, kani kani pele, kani mano mahane lele maku ikakola mana ikakaha lea ohumahe. I learned that when I was in, I learned that song when I was in second grade and I still remember it. The things we can remember is quite amazing. So if you need to talk to me. Okay, so if you want to talk to me, do you want to set up a call? Do you need to talk to me like offline? I talk on Instagram. Oh, okay. All right. You'll send something on Instagram and I'll wait for that after this. So if you're in transition, remember that it's painful, but remember you'll come out like a shiny diamond if you allow yourself to go through the process. Don't get in the way of yourself. Let it go. And I'm going to let go of a bunch of my stuff. That's just, I'm going to wear the same clothes every day. And who cares? I don't care. Tired of having to choose outfits and all these things. I just want to wear workout clothes and kung fu clothes, and that's it. Simple. A simple life. That's what I want. Simple. Okay. So there you go. And a workshop to do God's work. There you go. See, there I've declared it. It's that easy. All right. So there you have it. Transitions. So I love you guys. Have the most awesome Thursday ever. And I will be seeing you all tomorrow. And ask yourself those questions. See if it helps out. And I love you guys. Many blessings and love and light. See you all later. Bye bye.